The ideal smoking experience is a nice brisket, but with the price of meats today, sometimes brisket just ain't in the cards. Well, today we're going to see if we can take an inexpensive chuck roast and make it taste like a brisket. So sit back, enjoy, and we'll see if we can make it happen. But before we get this video started today, if you would, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification. That way you'll get an update every time that I upload a video. So let's go dark and get this video going. Hey YouTube, welcome back. I am Griffin Grills, and as you saw from the intro, we're going to do a little experiment today. I've got a chuck roast that I paid $36 for. A little high, I know. But if you've looked at the price of briskets, they are way higher than that, like 3 times the price starting out. So we're going to see if cooking the chuck roast like we would a brisket with the same seasonings, same method, same technique, see if we can generate a similar flavor that might satisfy that urge for a brisket when your wallet just can't supply it. So let's go ahead and take a look at our chuck roast and go ahead and get it seasoned up and get it ready to go on our pit. And we're going to see if we can make this happen today. So this is our star of the show tonight. We've got a chuck roast here. It's about 4.5 pounds. And we're going to season this up just like we would a brisket. And hopefully get that good briskety taste, but at a chuck roast price. So the very first thing I'm going to do is start with a binder. I'm just going to use some yellow mustard, and if you don't like the taste of mustard, don't worry, it doesn't leave any flavor on it. It just gives the spice something to adhere to. So as you can see, the mustard has kind of dimmed the red color a little bit, and if mustard is not your thing, don't worry, you're not going to taste it. It's just going to help our spices stick. And speaking of which, we're going to be using a pre-made rub that I made today. Very simple, 2 parts pepper, 1 part salt, 1/4 garlic, onion powder. That's all you need to do. You can make it any size you want. I just make it up in a big container like this, that way it's easier to get on. So we're going to start just putting the seasoning on, and you can go kind of heavy with it. It's a big piece, but we basically just want to cover the entire thing. Make sure we get flavor everywhere. And of course, we're going to get our sides too. You don't want to forget those. And when I got my meat today from a butcher, he asked me if I'd ever tried chuck roast burnt ends. I've done pork belly burnt ends before. There's even a video, I think, on here. You can go back and find it, or might try to revisit it. But if this turns out to be satisfying that brisket itch, we might have to make some brisket burnt ends out of a whole chuck roast. Just do a whole bunch of little cubes, season them up. I think that might work. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this side going. Back out here on Old Faithful with our Smoky Mountain, I've got it at about 208. We're gonna run this nice and low and slow to help break down some of the intermuscular fat that was in our chuck roast. And speaking of that, doesn't that thing look pretty? Now, I did go ahead and truss mine with some butcher's tie, just because when they took the bone out, my butcher did, it was a little loose and floppy right in here. So this will just help kind of hold everything shaped together. So let's go ahead and get it on the smoker and get this thing started. Neat little trick, if you want to find the middle of it, put it in the middle of your meat, and then pinch right there where it meets up, and then insert it in the middle close as you can. And that should give you your internal temperature in the middle. So we'll let this thing ride for a couple hours, and we'll be back check on it in a little bit.
One eternity later.
Alright, so sorry about that. We did miss a couple of steps in the filming process simply because I film outside And it started raining last night, so I was unable to show a lot of the stuff that went on. I will catch you up and show you what we actually did. But I actually made a foil boat for my chuck roast brisket to sit in. I also poured some tallow on top of it and on the bottom, and it's been cooking in that tallow for about the last 4 or 5 hours. So we're going to take a look at it. I'm going to get it inside in a cooler to let it rest. We're going to rest it for at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Let all those juices kind of sink back in. But let's go see what we got. And I know it's going to be a little hard to see on the camera here, but our internal temperature is about 205. And I did crank my smoker up to about 300 once I put it in the foil, just to help get everything kind of sped up to this point, because this is already going on about a 14-hour cook. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. And I mean, that looks like a brisket. It's nice and tender. The probe thermometer inside gives you kind of a rough estimate, but your best bet is to take an instant read probe, and you want to stick it in and have very little to no resistance. You want it to be like butter. I'm just barely pushing that. So we're going to go ahead and pull this off, get it in the cooler and let it rest, and then when we come back, you'll see me slicing into it. So before the rest, I did wrap it in some butcher's paper and added some more tallow. So we're going to unwrap it now and slice it in. It has rested for about an hour and a half. So let's see what we got. It's like meaty Christmas. Alright, we'll just add a little bit more of that tallow over the top. And now we get to slice into this bad boy. And please remember, if you did use the butcher's twine, to go ahead and cut that before you start slicing. So we'll remove that. Let's just give it a slice right down the middle. I'll tell you what, that looks pretty close to brisket there, especially for the price point. We'll set this off to the side. The knife just glides through it. And I think I'm going to take just a little bit of a piece here, kind of like a burn in. Tender. Pulls right apart. Let's come back on up and we'll do the taste test. So it doesn't actually look like a brisket. It looks like an overdone brisket, but it's super tender. Let's try a taste of it and see what we think. It tastes like a burn-in, no joke. It's got that smoky flavor. The tallow is soaked in, flavored it up. It's even a little salty. Tastes just like a burn-in. Maybe I made a mistake on this one. We should probably just chop up a chuck roast into little cubes and make burn-in so you can get some of that fabulous crust there. Maybe that's a future video idea we can do. But with this being so pillowy, soft, and tender, for the price difference between a chuck roast and a brisket, do this every time. I mean, you can spoil yourself and do a brisket if that's what you want. But for a good, economical, once a week type purchase, definitely chuck roast would be way cheaper than brisket. So give this a try. Let me know what you think. I am Griffin. This has been Griffin Grills. And if you would, go ahead, and if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get notifications every time that I post a video. And if you don't mind helping me out, you can like, comment, and share with all your friends. That way they get to experience this as well. But this has been Griffin Grills. I am Griffin. Have a wonderful day.